And our proposal at the DA is aimed at forming a basis for a national conversation, national discussion, and debate and dialogue on the future of Uganda. And note, these are our objectives. Other people can add theirs, but these are our objectives. They are essentially 6 in propagating the idea of a national transition and reform processes. The reform processes we have talked about variously. It involves reforming a number of laws, including amending the national constitution. But to break down the principal 6 objectives: 1, to ensure key constitutional, electoral, and administrative reforms that should be effected before the next general election. Our intention is to make sure that before the next general election, potentially in January next year, we undertake critical legal or critical constitutional and political reforms before we are enthusiastic about participating in the next election. And I'll expound more on what that is about. 2, to ensure the conduct of non-violent, free, fair, credible, verifiable, and consequential elections. Some electoral processes are actually being inconsequential. I'll give you an example. For the bulk of the last elections in which I've been active, call them probably 6 of them, the only consequential outcome has only been limited to local governments and parliament. The presidency has been insulated from any consequence. That's why the media will say the incoming is the outgoing is actually the incoming. So there's no conversation as to the possibility. Say, what if the incumbent collapses in an election? What happens? So what if the incumbent is thoroughly defeated without an iota of doubt and he hangs on? What happens? So we want a conversation because we want to have an idea of what looks like a free, fair, credible, and verifiable elections. You remember, in the last 3 elections, Dr. Kizza Besigye was consistent in saying, if you think I lost, can we go ahead and verify and authenticate the nature of my loss? Can we go ahead and authenticate the nature of my opponent's victory? That has never happened. So we are saying, before we go into the next election, there must be a framework capable of providing verification for the consequences or the outcomes of an election. 3, to buttress mechanisms that guarantee peaceful and smooth transfer of power from one leader to another. Apparently, there's no such mechanism because we do not have a Presidential Transition Act. We don't have a mechanism that guarantees what happens to those who leave power. People hang on to power sometimes because they fear that there's no framework to insulate them from the crimes they have committed while in power. We want to have an arrangement of guarantees, an arrangement of ensuring that those who leave power actually don't leave the country. So if they have committed crimes against the citizens, there must be a framework of understanding the nature of crimes. Are they crimes in personam? Are they state crimes? So where's the framework? 4, to campaign for the implementation of a national reconciliation and reparation plan. Gentlemen and ladies, so much has been going on over the last 40 years under the leadership of General Museveni and his people. We surely know that there are so many injured citizens. There are so many affected citizens. And somehow, the political actors believe that they can be ignored. We don't think so. A nation that ignores the injured is a nation of fools. I don't think we are. We cannot afford the luxury of ignoring citizens that have been injured over time. So what will happen to citizens whose children have disappeared under the auspices of General Museveni and his people? Should we simply say they melted away like ice? We need a framework of truth-telling so that the country can heal from the effects, from the ravages of bad governance as we usher in a new epoch of leadership that appreciates the values of our people, that appreciates the values of human rights, the values of association and disagreement. So it's our belief that this is lacking. That's why disagreements make people get gray hair, because there is no framework for resolving them. If you disagree, you take the fastest flight when a regime changes. We cannot build a nation in that kind of